Good afternoon, Marian Bourne. Welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on Perfect Health with Elaine Godley.
Thank you very much, Elaine, for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
Marvellous, thank you. So, Marian, you've helped hundreds of people over the years with coping with stress. So, let's talk stress.
Yes, I think stress is a huge subject because I've discovered when working with many people that when I ask them if they're stressed, 9 times out of 10 they'll say, no, not really, or, you know, we all live with stress, don't we? And I think the problem is that a lot of people don't recognize the symptoms that their body is giving them, that they're stressed. And those symptoms could range from having headaches, migraines, it could be having gut problems or back problems. And those are all messages that the body is giving us. And, you know, a lot of us just don't recognize that those are symptoms of stress.
So what kinds of symptoms do people present with mostly? Is there a theme of people that you
No, the symptoms are really varied. So a lot of people, for example, might get constipated. That's a symptom of stress, because a lot of people, if you're holding in emotion, then that's, you know, their gut will react to that as well. So constipation is a really common one. Low back pain is another one. Most people have what I call a kind of Achilles tendon of their weakness. And so when people are stressed, you know, a lot of people will get neck problems or shoulder problems, and they'll go for a massage, and, you know, the person will say, gosh, your shoulders feel like rocks. That's where they carry their stress. And other people they'll have gut problems. So, you know, gut problems might be that they could be constipated, or they find they have lots of kind of aches and pains, and they don't digest their food very well. And actually very often that's a symptom of stress as well. So everybody's really different, and I've learned over the years that most people who walk in with problems usually have some stress component to it. It's not necessarily the whole reason, but, you know, a lot of I coach CEOs and executives in the city, and they are super stressed, but they're super busy running their businesses, and they don't have time to look after themselves until they have a wake-up call and go to the doctor and find they've got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, they've got aches and pains, etc., which they've been ignoring for a long time. And so their wake-up call is literally sitting in a doctor's practice.
It's amazing, isn't it, how people tend to kind of gloss over things, like you say, backache and neck ache and so on and so forth. Neck ache is a common one with stress, and you know you've got stressed shoulders, or you've got a headache coming on because you know you're stressed, and sometimes you can connect the stressful feeling with something that's happened to you recently, or something that you're in the middle of. But when you talk about gut issues and back pain, it's perfectly understandable what you've said, but most people wouldn't associate that, would they? They wouldn't join the dots.
No, and interestingly, a lot of back problems are actually related to the gut. So I work with a couple of osteopaths, and they're amazing osteopaths, and they will do all the corrections. And generally, if somebody has to go back to an osteopath week after week after week, because I'm a great believer in osteopathy, but actually they have a gut problem. They have inflammation in their gut, which manifests as pain in their back. So the two are very closely linked. So I work with osteopaths and chiropractors as well. So I do the inside work, and they do the cracking and crunching on the outside.
Yes, yeah.
So that's a really nice way to work, because, you know, we're addressing the whole patient. So I'm looking at what's going on in their gut, and very often, you know, I'll do a lab test, and we'll find out exactly what inflammatory markers they have. Sometimes we'll do tests for vitamins and minerals and see what their nutritional status is. And very useful indeed when I ask people if they're stressed and they just shrug it off. I say, well, there's a really good lab test we can do which measures cortisol levels. And so people take a saliva sample during the day. And then, because your cortisol level should be really high in the morning, and then as you go during the day, it's like a graph, they go down. And by the time you go to bed, your cortisol levels should be right at the bottom of the graph. So that's really useful because we can see, are you waking up with lots of cortisol, or are you having to have 6 cups of coffee to get you going?
So do you ask people to take the cortisol saliva, to take the saliva at different times during the day so you get different readings?
Yes, so they get a test kit from the lab. I give them all the details, and the test kit is sent to them, and it comes with instructions. So the first one, I think the first sample they take is something like 8 o'clock in the morning, and then it's taken at kind of 4-hourly intervals during the day. So you take 4 samples, and then it's literally plotted on the graph. It's, you can see what the reference range is, and you can see, I don't have one with me, only if I could always send you one. You can see exactly where your cortisol levels are throughout the day. So it's really interesting, especially when people say, no, I'm not stressed, well, there's the proof if your cortisol levels are high. And I think I'm really quite passionate about this, because the effects of living with high levels of cortisol is not good for your health. Cortisol is very inflammatory. It lowers your immune system. You can put on weight. It's got many, many, side effects of living with high levels of cortisol. So, yeah, I think it's a really useful test to do.
And are the tests conducted between the lab and the person, or do the lab feed back to you and you feed back to the person? How does that work?
Yeah, so they do the test, and then the lab sends me, because I'm the authorizing practitioner, they send the results to me. I literally forward them to the person, and then at our next appointment, then we address whatever the lab results have shown. So yes, they come to me, but I immediately just forward them on.
Fabulous. And do you see everybody in person, or can you do this sort of thing over the internet?
I basically see pretty much everybody in person. Sometimes I can order lab tests working with somebody over the internet, but I'm very hands-on. I do a lot of therapy, so I'm a nutritionist, I'm a craniosacral therapist, and I do life coaching. So in an ideal world, I really like people to come and actually be with me. I feel I can help them more.
Yes,
but
you can.
Online's certainly working online is. Sometimes I do coaching sessions or hypnotherapy sessions online, so all of that's possible. Yes, but sometimes the hands-on is important.
Absolutely, I'm a great believer in chiropractic and craniosacral and homeopathy and all the rest of it. And I've every 6 weeks I see a homeopath, and every 2 weeks now I see a chiropractor. So it's about keeping well, isn't it? It's not they're my go-to doctors. They're not. I don't see a GP unless I want a specific test for something.
Yeah.
So that's the way to take control, and in a holistic way. So the things that you do are all, kind of a recipe, aren't they, to help somebody to recover from whatever their condition is.
Absolutely. So some people, on the whole, people don't come to me that often. It depends, depends what we're working on. But yes, they come a bit like you're saying. People come for sort of an MOT, or just to get a checkup and find out what's going on. So I think it's really important, especially as we live in this kind of, well, I live in London, so it's really stressful here. Everybody's exposed to all the toxicity and the stress of working and living in London. So I think it's really important to look after yourself.
Absolutely, and take responsibility and be accountable. Yeah. Quite agree. And you mentioned that you deal with top executives and so on. Have you found the difference between men and women executives interesting patterns of health?
Yeah, I think by and large women are probably more open to admitting they've got a problem. Men find it harder to, not all men, I'm being a bit generalist here, but a lot of men, particularly at the top, they don't have time to be ill. And that's the problem. They don't have time to be ill until they are ill.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of on a mission to stop them becoming ill, because there are lots of things you can do to handle stress better, recognize stress better. So I think that's the difference. I think women will more easily come and kind of ask for help, and men come when they absolutely have to.
Yes, yeah, I think that's definitely a pattern I've seen as well. So what would be your top tips for dealing with stress? So the listeners have got something that they can be doing at home. What are the 3 easy things that you can do yourself?
Gosh. Well, actually, number one, and it's there's quite a lot of science around it. It might sound really simple, but actually the simple things are very often the best, and that is sleep. Sleep is when this is when we repair, we do all our healing at night. Sleep is the number one thing that we need. So that's the first thing, and as I say, it might sound really basic to people, but it is so important. Number two, it's a dietary thing. I would actually cut all sugar out of your diet, and that is a really tough one. But sugar doesn't do you any good at all. It's very inflammatory. It contributes to high cholesterol. It's really difficult to do, but if you cut out all the white sugar, very often people say, oh, I need a biscuit in the morning, or I need something at tea time to give me energy. And what they don't realize is that, the more sugar you have, the more stress you put on your system. Each time your blood sugar levels crash, your adrenals have to kick in to give you more energy. And the more sugar you have, in fact, the more tired you get. When you cut out the sugar and you keep your blood sugar levels stable, you actually have much more energy and you just feel different. So that would be the second thing. I would get rid of all white sugar. What's the third thing? I would exercise. Exercise is, you don't have to go to the gym. Exercise has been proven to help with stress. Literally just walking, going out in, nature. Walking, we were designed to walk. And exercise, walking for stress is brilliant. So those would be my top 3 things. And wonderful. I know they sound really basic, but they really work as well.
And they don't cost anything. Going to sleep, cutting out all white sugar, save you money.
Yeah.
And exercise doesn't cost anything. So 3 things that listeners can do very, very easily. So thank you for that. That's excellent. The white sugar thing is interesting because it's hidden in so many things, isn't it? So I add to that processed foods because white sugar is in, and salt. The wrong sort of salt is in processed foods as well. So I'm sure between us we could come up with a huge, great big list, and then people say to me, well, what can we eat? What can we do? Oh, it's too difficult. I won't do anything. And then they end up in overwhelm and doing nothing to help themselves, and then absolving responsibility.
Yeah, and I think you really do, as you say, you have to look at labels nowadays. There's hidden sugar in tinned foods, in baked beans and tomatoes, it's in so many things. You just have to look at the labels.
Yes,
and anything that's processed has got sugar in as well. Anything that's ready-made. It's
getting slightly easier now, I think, for the average person, because you've got these labeling things now, so you can see if it's sort of red, amber, or green. So that's the help. But even then, the green levels aren't ideal either, are they? Some of them are far higher than I would personally choose to eat.
I like the idea of an old-fashioned diet when we didn't have any processed foods at all. And the old-fashioned diet, I'm going to say meat and 2 veg, but something like that where we didn't go, we bought food, we bought fresh food, if not every day, every other day. We didn't have anything in a packet at all. And if we went back to that, we'd all eat much more healthily. And I know it's really difficult for, hardworking mums and children, and I know that's really difficult, but I actually think it's also cheaper. I think ready-made meals are so expensive.
Exactly, and it's not that expensive to eat freshly, because if you batch bake at the weekend, freezer. What's the problem? You've got fresh food, the whole time, and it's wholesome and nutritious. And in days gone by, I remember my grandparents. Granddad used to grow everything, and then he used to cook and bottle it and preserve it, and so on. No pesticides, no rubbish. So we used to eat organic. But we didn't think of it as organic. We didn't know the difference, did we? It was just lovely food, and that was that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think I'm always, I see women in the supermarket with, literally a trolley full of pizzas, ready-made foods, and I just think, gosh, that's come to a lot of money, and if only they could just buy, I don't know, a whole chicken,
Yes. Yeah.
cook a chicken and use every part of it, and with so much tastier and better for you. I'm very old-fashioned about food.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. So 3 simple things to do with stress: sleep, avoid sugar, and exercise. That's fabulous. And
Hmm.
also have a cortisol test to assess the cortisol levels.
Yeah.
And there we go. So your website, Marian, is which website would you want to say?
I think the best website for everything I do around stress is probably the Bourne Practice .co.uk.
And
And
you're spelling, how you're spelling Bourne?
so that's Bourne practice, the Bourne Practice.co.uk.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. And I ask guests to suggest 2 songs, and you've chosen Tina Turner, Simply the Best, and Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum. Why did you choose those?
So shows my age choosing those two.
My favourites as well, actually.
I just think they're classics. I mean, anything by Tina Turner. I love dancing, and that's a great kind of dance track. And Whiter Shade of Pale, something about that music, it just sort of sends tingles down your back. I don't know. It's just, I guess it's part of my, when I was younger. It's just got lovely memories. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be playing
they're
those.
my desert island tracks, definitely.
Okay. Well, your desert island tracks will be coming on the show shortly. Thank you very much, Marian Bourne, for spending time this afternoon with me.
Not at all. It's been really lovely chatting to you. Thank you.